I had so many stories, you know. I'm sorry that when the First War was over, they just took everything from the German, and they couldn't survive. Because I talked to some Dutch people, they said, look, they used to come across our border just trying to get some potatoes to take home. And when Hitler got to power, of course, he was looking after his people. He said, never again we have to beg. In particular, there's all my friends went to join volunteer. I'm a volunteer too, and they were all gone. And I was just one day I was at the CNR station in Hamilton, and there was a troop train going by. And I was just a little guy with 145 pounds. One kid is about my age. He pointed at me and said, "Hey there, buddy, you look good in uniform." And like I say, everybody was joining up, and we didn't care what the reason was for, but it's not that I was going to give my life for Britain or France. It's just an adventure.
Yes.
And most of them, I imagine, they had the same
adventure. Yeah, to get away from the area and
yeah,
see the world.
Travel.
Yeah.
They took us to England on a ship. We didn't cost a penny.
Yes.
It was on the government. That was in the south part of England, Farnham. And that was where the Canadians were stationed. By that time they had 400,000 Canadians that went over. There was, and something too I want to mention. When I got there, they say, "Oh, we don't want butchers." I said, "We don't need that. We don't want to get that much meat over there." It was all mutton.
Yeah.
So he said, "Anything else you can do beside cooking, beside the butcher?" I said, "Well, my dad was a cook, and now we're up in the lumber camps." You know. "Okay, you're going to have a crash course." So I took a course, and see that I know how to cook. You know, I made a meal, and they had the officer to come and taste all the guys' food. So they give me a good. It was my food that I cooked was tasty, and all the officers, it's pretty good today. But I didn't know what was coming. The General Career Staff, that was the general in charge of all the Canadian Army. This sergeant came along and he said, "How would you like to cook for a general?" I said, well, he said, "You don't have to cook every day." He said, "You're going to be there." Gave those guys a day off. Now he had 3 cooks. And he said, "You got to give those guys a day off." So I said, "I work 3 days and I got 4 days off for myself." So I said, "Yeah, I'll go for that." After I got transferred to another group, I was feeding truck drivers that took their truck. Now they took one truck with a bunch of drivers in the back of it, and they went to Cherbourg. That was a 300-mile trip from Holland to Cherbourg, France, where the docks were. Then they pick up trucks over there loaded in England. They were all loaded, and they pick up the truck off the landing craft and they brought it up to us. And tell you an example of what happened. One time I was coming out with a bunch of sandwich, but they need some food. So I had a big box of sandwich, and I'm walking there with, then there's about 10 kids that were in the garbage can, but I didn't know what they were doing. They were scraping the grease off the garbage can and eating it.
Wow.
So they all ran towards me. I'm in the back of the truck, and I put the box up in the air. And the guy was looking and said, "What's this kid doing?" Well, I said, "Look at them, they're starving." I said, "You guys want to do a sandwich?" He said, "No, give it." We spent the winter in Holland, and there was skirmish, and they were fighting the lowland where they were trying to open up the. Antwerp was a big port, but it was 40 miles from the shore, from the English Channel. Not the English Channel, it was the
North Sea.
North Sea. Yeah. They couldn't. The German had the entrance all plugged up. They wouldn't let nobody go in there, so the Canadian had to go and fight them, and water up to their knees. In the winter time, they couldn't bring the tanks in there; it was too wet. So they used a sea sea raft, like, you know, trying to get a guy across, or a canoe or whatever. That was a really bad. They used to go in the front line with a streetcar.
Yeah.
They take a streetcar and they run to the front line. And there's a French farmer came to our camp, and he was telling one of the English officer about. He was telling in French, and bush doesn't mean German. They bush.
Uh-huh.
He said there's 25 bush in this little wood over there. And the officer couldn't understand. He said, "I'll go see Hector." He said, "What did he say?" So he told me, he said, he had the German give him a bushel of French franc, okay, to buy civilian uniform. So I got this right, and I told the officer. He said, "Well," and I said, "Where are they?" He said, "Well, the little bush back there. They bypass them. I guess the Canadian bypass them. There's about 25 of them, 30. Okay. I could have went to it to get my rifle, but you got the other guys there on the camp. We're all Army service called truck drivers, but we're all trained the same way. So they went into the bush, and they surrounded. As soon as they walked in the bush, the officer just went like this, and they all dropped their rifle, and they brought him to my camp, to my place where I had my tent. And they had an officer. And the guy was raised, and he was born and raised in the state. So we tried to ask him questions, and he was an officer. He said, "Well, my dad took us back to Germany in 1938 because he thought it was a good idea that the Germans expand their land, you know." And when we got to Germany, I had to go into youth training, so he was an intelligent officer. He could speak good English, like an American. Couldn't believe this. So one guy said, "How come you don't give up?" He said, "You know the war is over." He said, "No, the war is not over yet." He said, "Why?" He said, "Hitler promised us the V1, we got it. He promised us the V2, we got it. Now he's working on a bomb, or whatever it is, that's going to destroy the whole Western Hemisphere." And he said, if we couldn't hang on a little longer, that we're going to win the war. He was talking about atomic bomb. I didn't know about that. It come up after, you know, that's how we're going. There was something going on, and we didn't know.